Hey gorgeous, welcome to my channel Soil and Margaritas. My name is Roxana and I garden in Zone 5 in Central Indiana. I feel like a lot of my videos lately have been inspired by questions of you guys. I got a lot of questions from Instagram from people who just started gardening this year or that are thinking about gardening next year, and their questions were about how do you save money? Are there any resources, any tips, any ideas, things that you do to save money in the garden? And I am going to be honest, you guys, I do spend a lot of money in my gardening. Even though this is a hobby, I like what I like in my garden. Planters, trellises, plants, seeds. I mean, I feel like I'm always buying something for the garden. But at the same time, I do a few things that help me in the long run to save money to be able to afford those things. So I broke them down in 10 different areas where you can save money, you can do the things that I do, so that if you're thinking about buying something big for your garden, maybe doing some other things to save money will help you in the long run. Number one is garage sales or yard sales, however you know them where you live. I can find tools, planters, even plants. I found some gorgeous golden privets years ago on a garage sale for $5. I think that I paid $5 for both of them. They were a tiny thing, they were not that big, but now they are about 8 feet tall. They are huge. I love those things. I have found a lot of things just by visiting garage sales in my town. You can find a lot of things that are not even made for gardening. Wood crates, home decor. If it can hold soil, you can use it for a planter. Where I live, a lot of garage sales also have divisions from plants, cuttings, rootings, house plants, you name it. For me, garage sales are definitely a must for finding things for my garden. Number two is somewhat the same, and that is Facebook Marketplace. And this one, I feel that it requires a little bit more work and more time checking them on a weekly basis, looking for things for the garden. I find that a lot of the stuff that I find there is from people that either did not use it or didn't like it or it didn't work out for their places, and putting them on the marketplace is just something that a lot of people do. I have found some gorgeous trellises for my garden for a handful of dollars. And one of the pieces that I am very proud that I found there are my concrete containers. The huge containers that I have on my brick garden path. You saw when I first installed them, you saw how I have been using them for the last couple of years, and they are huge. I couldn't have gone and picked them up myself. When I found those pieces, the guy had them listed at $50, and I said, yes, I'll give you $50. I'm on my way, I'll pick them up. And he was like, no, you don't understand. These pieces are heavy and they're not gonna fit in your car. So for an extra $20, he delivered them to my place, and my goodness, $70 for those pieces. Huge concrete statements was a great deal in my opinion. I cannot imagine how much one of those pieces will cost new and in that brand new condition. And a couple of years ago, I even found some mulch that a person was selling for pennies because they ordered a little too much for their own garden and they had a huge couple of yards extra in their driveway. So checking the Facebook Marketplace is something that I definitely recommend for new gardeners, or even if you have been gardening for a while. Checking the Facebook Marketplace is definitely something that I love to do. Number three is joining a local gardening group. Where I live, I have found groups for houseplants, vegetable gardening, perennials, learning how to garden in Indiana, and more than likely you can find those types of groups where you live. Join a few, see what they're doing, see what they're sharing. It is always a great idea to make those relationships with the people local in your own community. And one of the things that I see happening in a lot of these groups is that during the fall or early in the spring, when people are dividing, when they are getting rid of plants or they're looking for getting rid of seeds because they're a little bit too old, whatever the reason they're getting rid of stuff, they post them in these groups for free or for very cheap. Being part of these groups is also a great way to know what type of events are happening in your area. Another great source in helping you save money is checking your local library. I am not sure if all the libraries in the US do this, but my local library has a huge collection of seeds and they are available to the public. And I believe some of them have a limit on how many packets you can get per household. But I have found some really cool varieties for vegetable gardening in my local library that I think is a great place to visit. And I think that a lot of the collection of seeds that these libraries have is just going to depend entirely on who is donating these seeds. My local library has no flowers whatsoever, but they have tons of vegetables. So check your local library and let me know if you find any. And while we're talking about seeds, saving your own seeds is a skill that every gardener should learn sooner than later, in my opinion. If you think about it, if you join a local gardening group and you have a bunch of seeds saved up from your own garden, you can create or you can start your own seed swap with a couple of people. Or like I have done in the last couple of years, you can join online seed swaps, and those are an amazing way to also get a bunch of seeds, a bunch of new seeds. And considering the time that it's involved in you sending a bunch of seeds, the amount and the varieties that you get in return is so worth it in my opinion. And by the way, I have a bunch of seeds, a lot of extra seeds that I have been collecting the last couple of years. Some of them I'm not gonna use again, some of them I just have too many, like hyacinth beans or amidara or loofahs. I have a lot of them. I'm not going to grow loofahs anymore, and I have a lot of seeds. So if you want a few seeds, I am going to make a few packages and I am going to see how many I can get together. I'm thinking that I can at least get 10 seeds put together with all of them combined. And I am going to choose 10 people from my newsletter. And if you haven't signed up for my newsletter, I will have a link below. I'll probably do all of that after Christmas. So if you would like to get some seeds, you sign up for the newsletter and I'll be emailing the people with the email that they use to let them know that they're gonna get some seeds from me. Number 6 is waiting and finding the sales. Late in the fall or early winter, it's a great time to find shrubs and perennials for a fraction of their original price. A lot of stores like the orange and the blue stores that we all have in the US need that space late in the fall for all of their holiday decor, for their Christmas trees, and they push a lot of sales during the fall, early winter for getting rid of a lot of perennials. I didn't do a lot of buying this year in the fall for plants, but one of those weeks that I went to my local blue store, they had a huge sale going on for $1 for all of their perennials. And obviously I had to look at their inventory and I found a bunch of heucheras. I got 16 of them for $1 each. I paid $16 for 16 heucheras. To me, finding that deal, that sale was just amazing to finish the year. And the same goes for buying tulip bulbs. If you wait to purchase the bulbs later, way later in the fall, a lot of these places discount them really heavily. You probably don't get a lot of options in colors, but if you can get a lot of those bulbs for 60-70% off, I think it's a huge save in my opinion. I chose the windiest day today to do this video. But before we continue, if you are enjoying this video and you would like to support this channel, maybe you can give it a like, leave me a comment, or maybe even subscribe. And if you know somebody who's just starting out with gardening, maybe you can share this video with them. Number 7 is be creative. And I feel like I have mentioned this a lot this year. Just because something is not labeled as something to use in the garden, it doesn't mean that you can't use it. Anything that can hold soil can become a planter. Now, depending on the material, it can last a few years outside or just one season, but that's just going to depend entirely on the care that you give it, on how much you want it outside, and if you're willing to let it go after one season. Going to thrift stores is one of the best things that you can do for finding these types of containers. Baskets, wooden crates can become really cool things to hold a plant, some annuals, a shrub, some tulips, and you can find these items for really cheap at thrift stores without having to pay full price at a garden nursery or somewhere where these things are being sold as items for the garden. Number 8, and probably one that is my favorite to do, is DIYs. And for me, a lot of those DIYs are more towards trellises. I just make one for my vegetable garden this year. I make a huge black arbor that is going to be acting as a huge trellis for climbing vegetables, and I am absolutely in love with those. But in the past, I have made videos showing you how I make simple trellises for containers, and this is something that you can also get creative as to the materials that you use and the designs that you end up with. And when it comes to making the trellises that I like to make, I like to use items that are already dead, meaning cuttings from shrubs. I love to use the cuttings that I get from pruning my hydrangea hedge early in the spring because they are long, they are thick enough, and they hold well. Number 9 is reusing old potting mix. I feel like this can be a controversial or surprising idea for a lot of gardeners, especially new gardeners. For example, this year I had a lot of vegetables, a lot of flowers, even some shrubs in containers, and I had a lot of potting mix at the end of the year. Instead of getting rid of all that potting mix, I saved it, I put it on the side, because I knew that I was going to get these huge planters, the corten steel planters that I have on each side of the house. And what I did was that instead of buying a lot of soil for those containers, brand new soil, I reused all of that potting mix from the containers, and I save a lot of money just by doing that. Some of those containers are holding the $1 hookeras on one side, and the other containers are holding the bulbs that I found on sale at the end of the season on the other. So in a way, I'm saving a lot of money by gardening. And number 10 is buy small plants. This one is hard for me, and I am sure that I'm not alone in this. But small plants are just cheaper. Just to give you an idea, before I started making this video today, I look online into one of the main plant companies that sells pretty much everywhere, and I look for hydrangeas, limelight hydrangeas. Those are the ones that I am using for my hydrangea hedge. And the hydrangeas in 1 quart size are $20, and the hydrangeas in a 3-gallon size are $72. Now you can get 1 hydrangea in a 3-gallon size, or you can get 3 hydrangeas in a quart size for the same amount of money. And buying small plants is just also going to depend on how many do you need and how long are you willing to wait until those plants are full size. For the hydrangea hedge that I have on the west side of my house, I use limelight hydrangeas, and because I wanted that hedge to be already big from the beginning, I used huge plants. They were about 7-gallon size, so I paid about $100 for each of those hydrangeas. So it was a small investment at the time. And yes, they were big hydrangeas when I first put them in there, but they have been there since 2016. If I had started with a gallon size hydrangeas, I am pretty sure that they will be at the same size of what I have right now. But like I said, that's just going to depend on how many plants you need of them at once, what do you want to do, are you willing to wait. I do a lot of hedges with boxwoods, and making those hedges requires a lot of plants. I have to start with the quart size, unfortunately, because 1, they are already expensive. Boxwoods are kind of expensive where I live. And 2, I am okay with waiting a couple of years for those hedges to make the shape that I want them to be. So what do you think? If you are just starting out in this gardening thing, are these some tips that are going to help you save money, do you think? Or if you have been gardening for quite a long time, do any of these make you go, oh yeah, I can do that? Let me know in the comments. If you would like to see one of my favorite DIY trellis that I make, go ahead and check this link over here. And for more DIYs that I have made for my own garden, check this one right here. Thank you for being here, and until the next time.